This is a guy who I would love to debate. Speaking of someone who needs a wedgie.
There's a bunch of stuff that I liked about the Torah. Remember to stick around to the end of this video too, because I'm going to be telling you what I loved about the chapter and what I loathed. And please leave in the comments whether or not you'd like me to continue the...
I'm already grossed out.
The incredibly disturbing passage where God says, and this is, of course, God commanding this, that if you go into war with some people and you see an attractive woman that is amongst the captives, you can take her and make her your wife. I don't know if I described it as intensely as I maybe should have at the time, but this is forced marriage. Nowadays, modern people consider it a crime against humanity.
Who cares what they think, dummy? Hey, Joel, who cares? Back then they didn't. See how easy that was? Well, here, post-Enlightenment, we have these ideals of individual liberty, and this is considered bad, bad, bad. Let's just grant his worst interpretation. You don't need to correct these people on interpretations, because whatever they're doing in their interpretation, they're trying to present optically like it's a blemish. But the problem is they're the one judging. And we go, well, interesting. You're judging this. Under your view of morality is back then, they didn't agree that it was wrong, right? What's wrong with it then? Nothing. Nothing's wrong with it.
Forced marriage can be thought of as slavery. Obviously, rape is going to be involved. Make no mistake, this is forced marriage. This is a man going, I think that woman's attractive. God says, well, then take her and make her your wife.
Yeah, and what? Was there some sort of, are you taking some presentist view where you're going to go back and transpose the past and insert your Enlightenment principles that you yourself can't even justify now? You can't even justify him now, Joel. Joel reads Bible. In fact, under your paradigm, we could all just vote away autonomy and all this stuff anyway. And there would be nothing actually wrong with it from your view, nihilistic Joel.
No mention of consent. Go into her, sleep with her, and if you don't like her, you can kick her to the curb. She's, of course, a captive, so to imagine that she can consent is pretty naive. And
oh, where'd you get this idea of consent? Is this modern view again? Creeping into the past? Sorry, dude. Forget the past. Forget the biblical accounts that you find disturbing. Who cares what you find disturbing? You don't have any arguments, Joel. Okay? You tell me right now, without the biblical horrifying past that you think existed, you tell me right now why we ought to abide by consent or not. From your shitty nihilistic worldview. You know what? You can't. Which is why you have a YouTube where you're the one doing the cross-examination. And you never get cross-examined.
Probably, if you're arguing for the Bible, incredibly disingenuous, I would assume. If a woman can't consent, right, and you are choosing that she is going to be your wife, and you are choosing that you are going to sleep with her after a month because that is when you can go into her, then that is a sexual assault. There's no two ways.
Sorry. What is this term you're using, buddy? Joel, you're doing it again. Hello? Hello? Hey, Joel. Wake up. What is this legal term that you're assuming exists? That's weird. I thought sexual assault was a legal term, Joel. Oh, are you saying legal terms are timeless? Is that what you're saying, Joel?
If you see a beautiful woman, you can ask her very nicely if she's interested in maybe going on a date or something like that and getting...
These people are delusional. This is what decadence does to people. The combination of enlightenment, individualism, all this crap, and decadence, the luxury of living in it, where you actually believe that individualism is the end-all, be-all. This is what happens. It distorts your brain. It distorts your mind. And you can't see past that filter. You can't go back into time without assuming, bringing with you all of the baggage and the presuppositions of classical liberalism, Enlightenment philosophy, rights. They think there's dating, you know, like what courting was. You think you were swiping left or right, dude? Do you think not taking women out of war-torn situations, do you think it would be better to leave them to their liberty, Joel? What are they going to do? Climb up a tree and start an OnlyFans in a treehouse? Is that what your idea is, Joel? Leave these women in the wilderness, in the desert, subject to all sorts of things. Oh, they could always start a website.
One apologetic people might use is, well, these women were being protected, right?
Yeah. Look, Joel, it's really simple. I can present a scenario to you in which the best thing to do is act against someone's autonomy. Not only then, but now. And this is why these people fall apart and why they rely on stupid people calling in the show who don't think this through. There are many scenarios, Joel reads Bible, where even you would say the best thing to do is violate someone's autonomy. Now, all you're really arguing is where you draw the line, where the threshold is for you to violate autonomy and when someone else does. But the thing is, you have no standard. It's all just your preference anyway. Joel?
Right. So this was actually a good thing. They would have died if the man hadn't taken her in.
I mean, what's better?
There's a lot of reasons why this is a stupid thing to say.
Why? Why is it a stupid thing to say?
One of the things would be, why wouldn't God make a world where a woman wouldn't have to?
Why wouldn't God make a world where we didn't need to breathe to live, Joel? Why didn't God make a world where I can go underwater for hours, Joel? Why do I need to eat? Why do I have fingernails? If the Christian says, well, if the alternative is worse, from your own atheistic view, why not do the better thing for the woman? Adopt them into a nation that abides by Christian virtues, that actually values virginity, by the way, protects these women, feeds these women, clothes these women. What's better? Leave them alone in the wilderness? He says, well, why did God make the world this way in the first place? Your argument is essentially, why did God make a world with things that I don't like? Great. Wow. Top tier, Joel. We got a top tier thinker here.
Why wouldn't God make a world where a woman wouldn't have to marry the man who killed her parents, in order to survive, right?
Why wouldn't God make a world where we're all God, Joel? Why not? Why didn't God make a world where I don't have to think to talk? That's not an argument. You could say that literally about anything. Well, Joel, I had to put the person in prison for doing a horrible thing. Well, why did God make a world where that's possible?
Right? Like, why couldn't he create a world where there was so much equality and all those things, women had agency and whatnot, so that this kind of thing didn't have to happen?
How about this, Joel? Why didn't God create a world where there was no agency, in which case someone was assaulted wouldn't actually count because they're not a person, they're just a fixture? How about that? Why didn't God make us animals so that the term sexual assault didn't exist? Now, coincidentally, Joel, you think we're just animals. So, Joel, tell me, Joel, what is the symmetry breaker between an animal, like a dolphin, having its way with another dolphin, and a person, whether biblical times or today, having their way with a woman? You tell me from your view, Joel, what's the symmetry breaker? Tell me. Well, why couldn't God just make us like, determined mechanisms, like totally natural determined mechanisms? Why didn't he make us that? Isn't that what you believe? If God real, we would have been just determined mechanisms. You believe that. You actually have a reason to believe in God because you think that we're determined mechanisms. Alter Void, $10. This guy looks creepy. He certainly does. He's like Blippy. He's like Atheist Blippy.
About the woman in this situation?
What about the woman and her identity and what her pursuits are? What if she wanted to start an Etsy? Haven't you ever thought about the woman in the war-torn reality of biblical times that maybe they wanted? Look, dude, most of the time, in fact, the suffragette movement, if that was fairly modern, by the way, in contrast to biblical times, the suffragette movement shows that women actually argued against their own autonomy to some extent. Near universally, Joel. Now, let's make the times worse, Joel. What do you think the woman would choose? Adopting herself into an ordered society where she's taken care of, fed, clothed, protected, seen as valuable, virtuous, not seen as less than, taken up a notch from the wilderness, taken up a notch from pure slave, right? What do you think the woman would choose at the time? To go with the man and fold themselves into an ordered system where they're protected and provided for, or go out on their own and see if they could make it on OnlyFans desert style, right? Become a prostitute. What do you think they would choose, Joel?
This is disgusting. If anybody came and like said this rhetoric to you, you'd...
Oh, ick. Okay. Hey, smooth hands. Hey, ballerina hands. Your argument is ick? Is that it? Is that what you would bring to a debate? Icky? That's it? Icky. I don't like pizza. Icky. Ew, icky, there's stuff on my shoe. That's your argument? Ew, icky, there's stuff on my shoe. Do you have any arguments? Hey, guys in the chat, have we heard any actual valid arguments with premises and a conclusion? All I hear is yap, 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 yap. Whine, 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 whine. Ew, ew, ew. Do you actually believe that? Let me make this very clear, Joel reads Bible. Your view holds that morality is ultimately an agreement that's time-based. That's dependent on the times, okay? You yourself, why are you putting the Christian in defense? They could just take your view and say, you know what? Yeah. It was good for the times. What are you going to say, bucko? What you got, bucko? You're a fellow Canadian. Let me ask you a question. And I'm speaking from a sarcophagus right now. Joel, I see you do a lot of chatting and talking. But here's the thing. From your view, what's actually wrong with it? If morality is simply a set of agreements about behaviors given the times, and you believe it's ultimately... Why on earth would you make the claim that in biblical times, what you found horrifying was actually wrong? It's not! You dickhead!
It's so strange. It's
strange now. More arguments, right? Are these arguments? It's strange. It's icky. It's gross.
It's like they just can't see how absolutely brutal it is.
Things are brutal. You know what I mean? It's brutal. Brutal, strange, icky, Joel. I got your number, Joel. That's all you got, dude.
This is so bizarre.
Bizarre, strange, brutal, icky.
It's so absolutely like otherworldly. It's such a weird...
Weird again, Joel. You're doing great, buddy. You don't have any arguments. You understand me? Saying something's weird or brutal or strange or icky isn't an argument.
Weirdly ancient, this timeless God, you know? Can we stop defending this stupid book and just like be human?
Wow, that's really deep, Joel. Joel, according to you, Joel, being human is merely being some type of more complex animal, Joel. Who are you to say what it is to be human isn't to mimic our ancestors who use force to take over neighboring troops, who force themselves onto female organisms, which under your view is not a woman itself, it's just an organism. Joel, have you ever been questioned on any of this shit, dude? What does it mean to be human? Is that a universal category where suddenly you have value from your nihilistic, atheistic bullshit view, Joel? No, it's meaningless. In fact, according to you, you probably believe in evolution. Your concept of human is ever changing. We're actually on our way to not being that. We're going to splinter off in the future. What are you talking about, Joel?
Can we try that for once? Christians, please. It's just so horrific.
Oh, it's horrific and it's astounding and brutal and weird and gross and icky. Hey, Joel, you can't even tell me what it means to be human.
It's horrific to look at this stuff and then try to defend it. I know you have to because, like, well, this is our inerrant book. We can't.
No, we don't have to defend anything. We could just say we were determined to believe it and do it, from your view, Joel.
Say there's errors in it. Just say that, like, this one was a mistake that, like, somebody added it, a scribe added in or something like that. You know, like, just create an apologetic so that we can move past this kind of.
Why, Joel? Why should we do that? You notice how he's just saying things. He doesn't have any reason behind this. Why should we do that, Joel? I thought you're all about questioning worldviews, right? You're centering your channel called Joel Reads Bible. Even if we granted you all of your interpretation, Joel, you have no reason to do what you're doing today. You don't even have a reason behind it.
Of like purity culture rhetoric to the nth degree. So in verse 26, there's just this really weird kind of wording. It says,
by the way, he just said something about purity culture. What's interesting is that the counter arguments to Christianity being abhorrent, right? This view that you're disgusted by it. Aren't you in the practice of purity spiraling? Aren't you doing your own purity culture, saying, this Christian stuff has to go away, it's icky, I don't like it? Aren't you restoring some humanity? Aren't you assuming that you're cleaning up the mess? Aren't you assuming to be cutting out the blemishes of humanity and its wrong thinking? That's the great irony of these pig snakes. Joel, yes, you're a pig snake. You guys are the epitome of purity culture.
You know what I mean? It's like, isn't it obvious? Like if somebody were to say to you,
isn't it obvious? Great epistemology, Joel.
You know, and we don't have the death penalty for sexual assault, but if somebody were to be like, yeah, they sexually assaulted my sister, so I went and killed the guy. Let's just say something crazy happened. I don't condone that, but you wouldn't go like, oh, why? What did he do wrong?
Actually, no, we would. We would say, why is it wrong, Joel? That's totally fair question. Why are you looking at the camera as if that's not a good question, you little slime ball? You think your performance gets you out of this problem, Joel? No, it doesn't get you out of the problem with me, buddy. We don't grant you morality, bucko. Sorry, bucko. That's the thing. It's that you're saying it's obvious. Well, it's not. It's never been quite obvious. There's been centuries and centuries of people been debating this stuff for forever. And you think, why can't we just, make it obvious? Well, it's not obvious, Joel. No, it's actually on you, Joel. You little weakling. It's on you to say why that's wrong or why that's right or why something's just or why something's unjust. Look at him looking so deeply, convincing his stupid audience. Yeah, you're right, Joel. We don't have to question why something's right or wrong. We just have to declare it so and not actually defend it philosophically. We're advanced. We're the modern atheists. He's got nothing. Joel, I challenge you, Joel. You either debate. I will happily volunteer myself to debate you on some of these topics. Or respond to this video when I cut it into a nice little blip for you, Blippy boy. Okay, Atheist Blippy? I'm calling out Atheist Blippy. You have to justify your claims. You have to tell me why anything you find icky or weird or disgusting or disturbing, you have to tell me from your view why they actually are wrong. Why should we listen to you, Joel? Because you play some instruments? I'm going to highlight you early in your career. What are you at, 11,000? Okay. No. I'm going to rail against you. I'm going to make a mockery of you, sir. You're not getting out of this. You don't get away from Jimbob. You undercooked cookie, you. You look like peach yogurt in the shape of a human. You look like a cheerleader with alopecia. You don't get away from Jimbob.